when you step back and look at it, really, we all behave kind of like, puppies. Not just Americans and not just young Americans, not just present day Americans, people, humans behave like puppies. And what I mean by that is, generally speaking, they're looking around and enjoying themselves and minding their own business and doing what they want to do. And they'll continue to do that until something happens that they are not supposed to do, at which point somebody rubs their nose in something, and the puppy, sooner or later, depending on how bright the puppy is, will figure out that I shouldn't be doing that anymore. So we come to an example of having our noses rubbed into the outcome of a certain kind of environmental rhetoric. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. I'm Bill Whittle, and this is your Right Angle today, talking about the gas shortage primarily in the Southeast, as a result of Russian hackers shutting down a pipeline. And there's been a lot of talk about shutting down pipelines since Joe Biden took his oath of inauguration. And now we've actually had one shut down. And as it turns out, it doesn't seem to be an extremely popular thing with the people who are at the other end of a shutdown pipeline. Steve, I'm not really too much interested in terms of the mechanics of how it was shut down and where and so on. What I am interested in is this. Pipelines are oil from pipelines, energy that comes to us from pipelines are like the airlines that don't crash today. You just don't see them. They're not on the radar. They're absolutely automatic. You get on a plane, you go from one place to another. But when a plane crashes, and it's been damn near 20 years in this country, 20 years. When a plane crashes, everybody looks at that and says, we've got to do something. So I personally think that as a race of puppies who really will not learn our lessons until we have our noses rubbed in stuff, that this is an opportunity for Americans to see for a brief time what happens when you decide to close down oil pipelines.
Yeah, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, right? Is that
yes?
Is that the angle we're going for here? Yeah, we have raised and I'm not saying this in a bad way. We are so fortunate because free market systems deliver the goods that you don't really have to think about the delivery process anymore. So we have several generations of Americans now who think that steak comes from styrofoam with some plastic wrap around it. Gasoline comes out of a pump at the corner. Electricity comes out of a hole in the wall. None of these things are true. Well, they are in the most immediate sense, but there is a whole chain of production. There's a chain of delivery. There's a chain of distribution and all the rest. And then there's the infrastructure, the financial infrastructure that makes it so easy to get the gas out of the pump. You've got a magic car. You just stick it in the slot for a moment and boom, you make the magic gasoline come out. We have made life so easy that, we're going to have to go through the whole aphorism about easy times or easy men. You know the thing. I mean, I can't remember the whole thing right now. I've got too many other things I want to say. What I want to get to,
strong men
though,
make good times make weak men make bad times
yes.
Make strong men.
Thank you so much. I want to talk about maybe the root cause of this just a little bit. Democrats have short memories or they wouldn't be Democrats. So I have to take you back to March 21st, I think it was, when President Joe Biden announced he would be taking retaliatory cyber attacks against Russia. And his national security advisor, whose name escapes me because national security is a very low priority for this administration, said, our attacks might not be visible to the world at large, but trust us, we're gonna take the fight to Russia and they're bad hackers. And his words were that we are going to set the boundaries of what is permissible for these Russian hackers to do to us. And they said these attacks would come within the next 2 weeks. So, number one, who the hell announces a retaliatory attack 2 weeks in advance? Yeah, and number two,
Joe Biden does.
Exactly. And number two, if you're going to make a statement that these attacks, even if they're invisible, are going to be so severe that we're going to spook Moscow into good behavior. You'd better make sure that you deliver. So here we are 6 weeks later, just 6 weeks. And I can say, number one, Joe Biden didn't do a goddamn thing in response. Not in 2 weeks, not in 3 weeks, not in 4 weeks. He didn't do a goddamn thing because no boundaries were set. None whatsoever. These hackers didn't just shut down the power somewhere for a few minutes. They didn't just hack a hospital. They attacked our energy infrastructure throughout the Southeast. This is a serious attack. But apparently, this kind of thing is within bounds for this administration because they don't give a goddamn about Americans' national security. They don't give a goddamn about our energy security. And they don't give a goddamn about setting any boundaries with these bad actors across the world because they don't give a goddamn about this country. Sorry.
I agree. It's kind of interesting to imagine Joe Biden in World War II, you know. You may laugh now, Mr. Hitler. Go ahead. But let me tell you something, sir. You do not want to be standing in Normandy 2 weeks from now on June 6th at 5 o'clock in the morning. That is one place you are not going to want to be, sir. There you go. Scott, this whole energy debate, because one of your segments this week was on alternative energy and the problem with what the eco people want and what the union people want and all the rest of it. But the reason I think this is, I mean no disrespect for the people who are suffering here, but why I think this is actually good news for America in the long term is because, as Steve said, you know, you don't appreciate something until it's gone. You just assume it comes out of the air. When there has been as much talk about pipelines, and didn't Michigan Fuhrer shut down a pipeline just a couple days ago? Gretchen, what's her name?
Whitmer.
All this talk about shutting down pipelines sounds great because people think, oh, pipeline, oil could leak, a caribou might have to step around a puddle. So we don't want that. When people finally are met with the consequences of the rhetoric that has no weight to it until finally it does, then they begin to see the idea that the world is not made out of magic. Compromises have to be made. There are no perfect solutions. And generally speaking, oil and especially natural gas traveling through pipelines is as good as it gets.
You know, it's funny because the United States is often thought of in economic terms as a country of geniuses who come up with brilliant inventions, like Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison came up with many brilliant inventions over the course of his lifetime, but his most brilliant was the one that we really don't even think of, and that is developing a company to distribute electricity to homes and creating a system that would allow that to happen. The real genius of the United States of America has been its systems designers. It's the reason why we win major wars, because we have better systems than other people. We always think it's because we have superior weapons and firepower, or we have a better kind of people who are fighting, and all of that is true. But the reason why we win wars like World War II is because we can get food and fuel to the front lines. We have a system for that process. We know how to get dry socks to people. And the beauty of systems, and this is the way, sadly, that's why they're so ignored. Systems are boring things that get you things that you need and want in a way that makes you feel like you got it for yourself. So people think that they drive down to the gas station and they fill up their tank with gas, and they've got the liberty and independence to do that. And look, hey, honey, I filled up the tank with gas. People think that they walk into an Apple store, press a thing on their phone, and get another phone delivered to them in the mail. And because they are so independent that they can execute this order and make it happen. The miracle of American business is the ability to deliver petroleum from the Gulf of Mexico to some guy in New York City in a way that makes him feel like he's done something heroic for his wife by filling up the minivan. And that is so underplayed in this country. I mean, the people who should be the heroes are the people who develop the systems. We don't even think about those people. We think about the people who make the inventions. And so, in my world, James Madison is the great hero, not because he's the father of the Constitution, but he thought through the systems that needed to happen in order to make that thing come together, and the systems that would need to happen in order to make it sustainable over the long haul. And I think when I look at something like this pipeline, I'll be honest with you, Did I know there was a 5,500-mile pipeline running from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to New York City before this happened? No. I did not. I mean, I assumed there had to be something happen there. It brings me back to an argument I had with my college roommate who went on to be an aerospace engineer and make 4 times as much money as me coming out of college. We had this argument. I forget how it started, probably me instigating it. I said that all I need to know is that when I turn on the light switch, that light happens. He insisted that I needed to know why the light happened and how it got there and what was the process, what were the systems in place. And he got so angry at me about the fact that I didn't care, that I just wanted to be able to flip a switch because I was, living in the lap of American luxury, that he actually threw a punch at a bunk bed, and he thought he was punching the mattress, but he hit the wood on the bunk bed and broke his hand. And
wow.
I wish...
Talking about rubbing a puppy's nose in something.
That's right.
Yeah.
I wish that there were more people who had the passion that he had about the systems that make it possible to enjoy a life that we think we control, but that is really supported by all these boring people who are doing everything they can to make us so happy.
That's just wonderful. You just kind of set me up for my close. If you ask people what the most amazing engineering project in history is, people might say, oh, maybe it's the Great Pyramid, or it's Barge Dubai, or it's the American Interstate Highway System by 3 orders of magnitude, something like that. By 3 orders of magnitude, it's by far the greatest human engineering achievement in the history of the world. And as Scott points out, it's our systems. And the reason that America has such unbelievably well-organized systems is because there's nobody organizing them. That's why they're so complex. They organize themselves. When you have a company that has an ability to respond freely to an immediate problem in the market, then those connections are built instantly, and all of this stuff is great. But no, now we're going to have the federal government telling us where we can take our energy from and who we can buy it to and how we can send it back and forth. And all of this arteriosclerosis starts to set into the system, and on and on and on it goes. But I do think that it deserves to be said again, and Scott covered a lot of this. To me, the great benefit of something like this is it causes at least the people who are facing not being able to get gas in their car, which I did growing up in Florida in the Arab oil embargo. I wasn't old enough to drive, but I remember waiting in line for 2.5, 3 hours for my 5 gallons for my dad's car that got 7 miles a gallon. But just for once, it's important for us to realize that as we speak right now, as you watch this right now, there are mostly young men out at work on oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico in the middle of tropical storms or in the North Sea. There are people who are doing the fracking. There are people doing the hard, dirty work to bring us the energy that just, as Scott says, you touch a switch and it goes on. And this is the problem with something like this, because it is so taken for granted that you never get any praise when it's there. But if it goes out all of a sudden, you're just the biggest demon in the world. So spare a thought for those people that keep all these things happening. The reason they call it infrastructure, and this is real infrastructure, infra means below. Infrared is below the red. Infrastructure is below the ground. It's out of sight. You don't see it. And you don't see it until it stops working. And so for it to suddenly get above the ground to the degree where people are saying, what, $7 a gallon for gas. Yes, $7 a gallon for gas is what happens when you shut down pipelines. So maybe next time you talk about this kind of thing and vote for it, now at least you will have some understanding, like the little puppy with his little nose, that shutting down pipelines means no gas for your car, or $8 a gallon gas for your car, or all of the rest of the real world consequences that happen in the real world that we all live in. For Steve Green and Scott Ott, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Right Angle.